What's up, guys? Crappie Connection here. Got myself Justin Berry. Got my sidekick partner
Brad Chappell.
Brad Chappell. Hey, we got our first guest here. We're at the Crappie Expo, and it just got dark on us a little bit. But we got Dannenmueller. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Dannenmueller here from Crappie now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Been fishing for years. He started bass fishing. He switched to crappie fishing. Man, welcome on the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Good deal. Brad, I know you got some questions already lined up. I want you to start hitting them before they turn the lights out on
Yeah,
us.
definitely.
Yeah.
We're going to do as long as we can before the lights go out. But, I think of Dan, and I think of a guy that stepped into the crappie world and made a name for himself real quick. My hat's off to you, because that's not easily done in this kind of industry.
No.
I want to get back, and we kind of discussed it before we started recording here, but, what made you divert from bass into crappie fishing? That's really interesting to me.
Oh, yeah. That came, TJ Stallings was the ingredient.
Yeah.
And TJ and I were together for a trip. And he said, you know what, Dan, you might also be interested in crappie fishing. And I said, why? Because I had bass fished. I had been Rookie of the Year and won Angler of the Year. I had done it all. And he says, because you've done it all.
Yeah.
So try something different. He said, at least come out and help out with media.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and helped them on media for the first year through Crappie Masters. And that was probably in the transitional years of when Paul Alpers was just taking
Now, what year
over.
you think that was?
That was about 12 years ago.
12 years ago? Okay.
Yeah. And so I did. For a whole year, I went out on media, taking media out. I hosted them. I took them on the boat. We did captures. We did everything. And so after that first year, I came to the second year, and I was doing BFLs, fishing BFLs and the boater, and also fishing the Military Bass Association at that time, and fishing airport marine tournament trails.
Mm-hmm.
And consistently placing in the top 25 through the year and all that kind of stuff. So I was sponsored through Airport Marine and did a lot of work with different sponsors on the bass side. Worked shows, worked diecast. And when he came to me that second year, I went down to Florida to fish, or to be the media person for that fish tournament. And I had ready BFL tournaments all scheduled for that year. And so Paul Alpers came to me, and Bill Braswell.
Yeah.
And he said, Bill needs some help. Bill is, worked hard through his career, and Bill would like to have a different partner. He had a bass lady that was fishing with him, and there's a long story behind that. She couldn't fish.
Mm-hmm.
So they came to me, and he says, why don't you try fishing crappie? And I'd been out with media, and I'd seen what they were doing, some of the techniques, and looked at them and the whole bit, but that's a big learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
And so Bill said, why don't we do this, Dan? Why don't you go out there? So I fished that tournament. We placed in the top 5.
Really?
Click.
So I got immediately hooked.
Yeah.
And
Hook's
so
it.
in that first year, we placed in 3rd place in the points race together.
Wow.
That's not easy there.
So Bill came to me and he said, why don't we fish together the next year? We'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there. So we did it. We won Angler of the Year.
Wow.
Then we fished the next year. We won Angler of the Year. And it was
2 years back to back.
2 years back to back.
Man, that's got to feel good.
It was awesome. Awesome. And so Bill said, you've worn me out. And he retired.
Mm-hmm.
So I fished 2 years by just picking up a fish with Jeff Sweeterman, brought in other people.
Yeah.
And we did well. Placed in top 5 Angler of the Year. With
Your third year.
different on the third year.
Third year, top 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it just kept going like that. And I said, I love this. This is my thing. And so, and then I was at a meeting. They said, maybe you ought to pick up Garrett. And I fished with Garrett Steele for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to go back to his industry and do his thing his way, which is a little bit different. He's got a whole different thing. And I said, okay. So, and I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And we were at the night when we did the transition with Garrett, and my wife came to me and says, why don't we fish?
Yeah.
She had retired that year before. And I said, oh, well, there's a thought. And you know what? Immediately said yes. Why not?
One question that comes to my mind is, who calls the shot in that? Sometimes the ladies of the relationship like to call the shots at the house, but what about a boat?
Yeah.
Well, that gets interesting. I mean, that is an interesting thing because, husband and wife, you have dynamics and things that go on. And it's a little bit different for her because she's stepping in a world she has not been into in competitive fishing.
Yeah.
It's different than going out there and what we did together as fishing.
Yeah, so you had to help her train her a little bit?
Oh, my gosh, yes. And so, but she's a fast learner. She wants to do it. She wants to learn. Our concern was heat and cold. She can't take a lot of heat and cold, so we had to kind of think of things that we could do that would help her in that realm. And she's been a fast learner. We have done things well. We were going to tweak a few things the next year.
When I see her, from an ACT tournament to a Crappie Masters, I see that drive, definitely in her eyes when it comes to it.
She is there. She is wanting to win, and she's wanting to do well. She catches fish, and she's gotten the netting down, even though that net is so heavy for her.
Yeah.
Especially when you extend it way out there.
Yeah.
It becomes harder for a lady to do that.
Now, have you asked her yet? Now, what are you doing over there? Or what are you doing different
I
things
have.
over there? You have?
Yeah. And she's done the same for me. And what's that thought process? And so, how the teamwork is on a boat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the new dynamics with life scope, and that's going to change things for us. But she's an adamant one-polar.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, instead of spider rigging or pulling,
she had to be kind of intimidated, going out there and, jumping in there and fishing with 16-foot poles, because a lot of times, even the ladies that walk by our booth here and they pick up a pole that's 16 foot and they're like, I don't know if I can really do that.
Right.
But, now I tell them, well, all of them, pick up the pole first off.
Yeah.
They're not as heavy as you can imagine. And, it takes a little practice, definitely, with a 16-foot pole from a lady to even a kid to a grown man.
It was a challenge for her on 16s.
Mm-hmm.
So we backed off to 14s this year. That's been a lot better thing to do, to go to 14s instead of 16s.
Yeah.
So, that's a big thing. So there are other nuances you have to think through of ladies in boats and the whole bit that we as guys take for granted when we're out there fishing.
Yeah.
And so, the umbrella thing was the biggest challenge, being able with big, long poles and having when you turn that umbrella, it's still a challenge. But you know what? What it's taught me and her both is that we can survive in the hottest heat with that umbrella. As long as we've got that umbrella, we can survive it.
How hot you think? Over 100?
Oh, my gosh. We had days at end this year where it was over 104. So we were out there in the heat. At Ouachita River, we were in 102, 104 temperatures, raw temperature.
Man.
So, and that umbrella is what saved us. That's what made us through, and a lot of liquids and making it through. So my concern is with her. I don't want her overheating. She does not cool like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, a lot of times their bodies don't do that. And so that was some learning process in the whole bit. So
you probably worry more about her than a normal
it
partner.
does wear on me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you change some of your processes of what you would do, on moving or doing some other things, that when you have a lady on there, it's a bigger process. So you have to think those things and do it more methodically.
Right.
So it's changed a lot of ways that we fish and how we fish. So,
yeah.
And we've still placed in the top 20, both years and both tours. Now we ain't burned up the rubber. We've placed top 5, but to us, it's about family. It's about fun and about fishing.
Exactly.
That's what I think about crappie fishing in general, really.
It is. It's all about that.
It's this friendship that we gain, and it's definitely a big gaining thing when fishing tournaments.
Take a look at the number of women now in our sport.
Oh, yeah. There's numbers of women that walk by our stand here today. You wouldn't believe. It was interesting. Talked about fishing hours and hours and hours. It's just amazing. Do y'all back the trailer in, take turns back in the trailer and all that?
She does not back the trailer.
She does not back the trailer, so that's gotta get
does
that.
She drive the boat?
It's like
yeah,
this.
because she drive the boat.
She does not like to drive the
She don't
boat
like
either.
the boat.
No. And she does not like fast speeds and in the boat and that kind of thing. I'm a heights person. I can't take heights. She can't take speed. So I run her at about 45. If it gets above 55, she starts squeaming.
Really?
Yeah. No screaming, just squeaming. And so she...
You'll hear about it later.
Yeah, I'll hear about it later.
Right.
Also, sharp corners are not her thing either. Because you think of it in terms of cars or, you don't have any protective doors.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have anything. So, yeah, there's some nuances there yet. But backing trailer is intimidating to them. She can back it straight. Once I have it ready lined up, she can go ahead and finish the backing.
Right.
She goes parks it. That's a big thing. She's
Oh,
really
yeah.
gotten
She
over
can
that.
park it. She can do it.
She
Yeah,
can park
that's a
it.
big
She
help
could
right there.
really do the backing. She's just it still intimidates her.
Mm-hmm.
So we just go with the flow and we make it happen.
That's good. You want to talk about Crappie now?
Yeah, definitely.
Crappie
Yeah.
now.
Now.
No. So how long have you been doing that for?
Crappie Now is going into its 10th year.
10th year.
It's hard to believe it's 10 years.
Go ahead and tell a bit of who's listening, maybe out west, all 48 states, what's going on with that.
Crappie Now was ginned up and was started with T.J. Stallings, Tim Huffman, and I.
Mm-hmm.
And we each had roles, and I had the biggest because of my company carried the publishing and technical and all that. TJ was marketing, and Tim was editing.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about the writers and all that.
Yeah.
So we all stayed in our lanes because we were all good at that and the whole bit. When TJ passed, that put a real challenge on me
Mm-hmm.
because then marketing was on me as well as the other part. So when we started the magazine, the whole idea of this was not to have a print magazine, but to
Yeah.
make an e-magazine.
Something easy.
Yes,
Yeah, I
where
like that a
people
lot.
anywhere, anytime could get to that magazine. Our whole guidelines were written down. I put it out. We all signed it, and the guidelines were we would publish monthly. We would not do any stories over 1,600 words, which the standard at that time was somewhere around 2,600.
Mm-hmm.
We went to 1,600, went to just 2 pictures, and we would do it in multiple formats so that those that had gone to printed magazines could see it in a form they liked at least somewhat. And we then went in and said, we're going to do this to where it doesn't focus on any one individual more than 1 to 2 editions in the year.
Mm-hmm.
That way then there wasn't focused on just me or
Right.
anybody else. We
Right.
would try to vary that and get differing techniques and the whole bit. The other thing is we would not do infomercials so that people could see. We would write content that validates
Right.
processes, techniques, and products.
I got you.
And so we lived by those rules and still do. And also we would write for all across the country, and we would write for that month that the edition was for. And now people could go up and select, say, September, October, and they could go for 10 years and look at writings on what works.
So you got it
in
archived
September.
on the website.
We got it archived.
You got it archived.
So Crappie Now is evolving just like anything else evolves, and we're about to go into a major change, which I'm ready to do. And we're right now embarking on a brand new format for the website. It's going to be state-of-the-art. It's going to be beyond state-of-the-art, and we're going to continue the page turner for those that like it, and then we're going to go to an open format that's going to be so usable. It's going to be very mobile, user-friendly. And not only that, but I also launched Catfish Now about 3 years ago, and that's going very well as well.
Catfish is growing in the world.
Well, how
that's
does
for
somebody
sure.
sign up to be put on that email list?
All
Yeah,
they
where
got,
can you find Crappie Now at?
they can go to the website, crappienow.com, and they can go up there. There's a sign-in button where they can log in and register to be a person, and then we'll put out an email every month to tell them that it's up there. And if they don't want to register, it's fine too.
Now, does it cost them anything?
It costs $0.
$0, guys. Crappie Now digital magazine don't cost you nothing.
That's one of the things, the first of the month, besides bills, that I get every month, but I actually enjoy reading these instead of
thank you.
instead of
Oh,
a
yeah.
bill.
I know, yeah, that would be a big thing. Isn't it?
Right. So, but it's
You
pretty
didn't
neat.
see
It's
that
really,
bill
really
I put up
entertaining.
there with it? I mean,
Well, I missed that one.
Oh, yeah.
The check's in the mail. then.
Yeah, the checks in the mail. No, there's no cost. It's all through sponsor money, and I pay the writers, and the writers like that because a lot of our writers in the world have gone away because a lot of our publications have gone away.
Right.
And everybody out there, please participate not only in what we're doing today and listen in, but also for the Crappie Now and that, because that is the voice of your industry.
Right.
Yep.
And we take on, Brad, we've worked on things
Yep.
with DNRs and so forth on length limits and other things, safety on the water.
Absolutely.
And I'm really big into that. And in the new year, we're also looking stronger into kids. And we're talking about things that affect you as crappie fishermen. And so that is the one voice. As TJ once put it, he said, this is a rifle approach, not a shotgun approach to helping crappie fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Because other magazines do one article on crappie, and then they do articles on everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't do anything but crappie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like the Crappie Connection.
Like the Crappie Connection.
That's all we do.
That's
Oh,
it.
As these guys come onto our show, and everybody has that same fire, and it's just non-stoppable almost. It's just, we love it so much, and I know our listeners do too. But definitely, me as a long-term subscriber to Crappie now, I enjoy it every month.
Thank
I've
you.
been getting
Forward
it for
to
years. I can't remember how long I've been getting it.
One thing we haven't done well, I think, in my opinion, and I do self-evaluations on this,
Yeah.
and I do it for the team too, is we've got over 160 how-to videos. And most of them, after they run in the magazine, most people don't even go up there. So we're going to categorize them. And one of the things we're doing in the new magazine, there's going to be, we're going to code articles as beginner and
like
for
that.
middle
That's a great idea. I
and
like that.
advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And that way then we can sort those through the database. So if somebody's a beginner and they want to go up and get beginning stuff, they can sort it, and they can draw all beginning articles out and videos, and then they can look at those. And for the advanced people that are getting the tournament inputs to
Right.
fine tune,
Right.
well, beginners aren't at that. There's
Yeah.
a big gap there.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And so
And lets them know too of like at first angler, you depend how much you know, and then you read an article of what you
Just
just
stair
stated you're
step
gonna
it up
put.
in your
You're
knowledge.
like, man, I need to step my game up. Here's what I need to learn. I think that's a great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, and there's people, like we just did a video in this one. We now have in-fishermen sharing videos with us
Mhm.
that are crappie related and other activities, and also take me fishing and into the outdoors. And so those kind of things all meld into what we do, and those should be out there as well. And that helps them to understand how to tie a knot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How to put a weight on there correctly.
You know, one of the main things that I always have to show people is how to do a loop knot.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, every seminar I believe I do, somebody stands around and waits to, at the end of the show, and say, "Man, I seen you tie that a while ago, but show me again."
Most
So
asked
that-
question, ain't it?
That is definitely the most asked question day in and day out on anything for seminars I do.
So you're right, and the knot. So it's when I did surveys, that's what you all out there said you wanted.
Yeah.
And also how to put a cork on.
Yeah.
In today's world, we got slip corks, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
got.
It makes me think of the number. Always on the internet, Googling, searching YouTube, looking at fun stuff or what we can do for our podcast. And the number one video out there is how to tie a slip cork. That's the number. That's the most viewed video
Wow.
on YouTube.
There you are.
There you go. There you go.
So
I guess you need to. Do you know how to tie a slip cork?
I gotta think about it every now and then. I get
Justin's a
twisted up.
slap.
I'll tell you something out of the bass world. Ray Scott,
Mhm.
the father of all this. Ray Scott once said to his magazine editor that I want a basic article or note in every magazine that we publish that gives the basics for the beginner fisherman,
Yeah.
because that's how we grow the sport in addition to the things that we do on the tours. And tournament fishing is just one little aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching is our job, and educating and embracing you out there to come in and join us.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's at one point I was that person before I even thought about tournament fishing. You're just sitting there schooling yourself, researching yourself. There's a whole nother world of people out there that don't even care about the tournament world, but still do their research on what they need to do. So I think that's a good approach.
The number that we see in surveys, and this is official out of Bass World and out of all of them, is 2% of the population of true anglers actually participate in some form of tournaments.
2%.
2%. So when we're looking at it from building products to putting things that's in their hands, and guides, you see this, Brad, you see this, is that, those people come into us, and especially in this world where we have less licenses being sold,
Right.
9%
Right.
down,
Yeah, I heard that.
and it's about 8% nationally. And so we've got to get people that have been missed in a generation
Yeah.
back into fishing. And so that's going to take getting women into the sport, because now we have broken homes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody
Oh,
out
yeah.
there, we have broken homes.
Yeah,
And sometimes,
I got one right here.
yeah, so
Oh yeah.
so we have kids that sometimes are with us as guys or women.
Absolutely.
So they've got to know how to fish, take them to the outside world, and they've never fished.
Oh yeah, or even take just like all my kids as kids. You know, they don't have that. You know, I feel like I'm the one that has all my kids' friends like, man, let's go with Tate there. We're gonna go fishing. You know,
another thing
they
that
don't
I
have
think
that for other fathers.
Another thing I think that's out there is we need to take our buddies that aren't into fishing and actually show them how fun crappie fishing can be. And, you know, take them one time and say, hey, look, let's go cook them. Because a lot of people hasn't even eaten crappie before.
They don't even know how to clean them.
Right, absolutely.
And one thing I just did was the most rewarding thing I think I've done in years. I was up at the National Professional Anglers Association, NPAA, and I'm a member of that. And we as crappie fishing and catfishing and all sports should join that because it's all about professionalism. And that's what it's built on. And it came out of the walleye world, and they've had it for years and years and years. And the president of that, when I went up in January, asked me to do a show with Into the Outdoors, which is a major effort national about families in fishing and kids in fishing and teaching them. And they invited me to shoot a show with them that was funded by Fish and Game for National Fish and Game, and how to bring families and kids back into fishing and do it in a TV show, a 30-minute TV show, and 4 training seminars that were going to go with it. I had the pleasure of filming that 2 weeks ago. Took a whole week in 104-degree temperatures. It was awesome, and we did segments, and these segments go with what you're talking about, Brad. The first segment was, how do I learn where the fish are for the time of year we're in? Very simplistic. Not what we do as pros, but more simplistic. And then we went out fishing, we caught fish, and we had a talented 13-year-old and a lady who was the aunt to this person in the scripts. And we taught them, and they had not fished hardly it. In fact, the 13-year-old had not fished at all.
Really?
And so we went out and did that. We had a production crew with us, went on a boat for 5 days, and what we did is those segments were how to fish, where to fish. Then we talked a segment on safety and how to preserve the resources, which is also include things like length limits, about creel limits. Why are those important? And we did it at the kids level. And the kid was the one that would ask me the question, and he would absorb it and then put it in their terms. Excellent way. And so then we did a segment on cleaning fish and about eating them and how to cook them easily.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of it, eating them.
Yeah, me too.
Man, speaking of eating them, did y'all have the fish today, the crappie?
No, I never made it to the line.
Man, it was good.
Was it?
Yeah, we all really enjoyed it.
Sorry, you didn't get none though, Dan.
I know, I was deprived.
We definitely appreciate your time there today.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you for inviting me on here to do this.
Man.
You guys got a great show. Everybody out there, be sure to tune in. This is one of our voices that carries what our sport's all about.
Absolutely, and take a little time out, and you come over today, and you rushed over here to do it for us, and that means a lot for us. Y'all check out Crappie now if you want to learn a great avenue to learn even from your beginner to the mediocre to the advanced even angler. So it's a good deal.
Yep. Well, give us a shout here. Crappie Connection. Give us a like, subscribe on YouTube. There's going to be more coming from us from the Crappie Expo here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Other than that, I'm Justin Berry.
Brad Chappell.
Dan
Dannenmueller. I'm glad to have you guys and be with you.
There you go. See y'all.
Holler.
Place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel my